Update. Am I the a-hole for going off on my wife because she teases me even though our bedroom is dead? Original post. I, 32 male, am married to my wife, 32 female, for 6 years and together for 9 years. Our sex life gradually diminished into nothing after 3rd year of our marriage. We do not have children as of now. I handle my part of chores in the household, if not even more due to me working from home and being available mostly. I do show her non-sexual attention and gestures, such as massaging, kisses, being emotionally available, and other things. I explain these because people tend to find fault from my side first, after I tell them about the situation. I try to have many talks with my wife about it, but it all boils down to, we are not married just for sex, stop thinking with your thing down there, and so on. However, she does not stop herself from teasing me. She'll talk about sex, but just reject me afterwards and go to sleep. She'll be flirty, but nothing in the end. I ask her if it's a kink, and if it is, I am not comfortable with such a thing, especially as our sexual life is in shambles. She said it's not a kink, and she genuinely does not feel in the mood. I told her to stop teasing me then. Yesterday was our anniversary and we had a great day together. She implied sex and teased me a lot during our time. I was hopeful that we'll do something in the end. Guess what? Once we stepped inside the house, she just showered and went to bed. Cool, I think I should approach. I tried and got rejected in the end. I lost it at that moment and just shouted my frustration at her. I told her I am going to divorce her. I packed my clothes and some important belongings and left for a hotel. She tried to stop me but could not. She has been calling me nonstop, but I just need peace of mind right now. It's just frustrating. Being together with someone but feeling alone and unwanted sucks. On top of that, she gives me hope only to destroy it. I called my lawyer friend this morning and will start the divorce proceedings this Monday. I am just done at this point. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. It's really messed up to lead a person on like that, especially your own husband. Not the a-hole. Emotional teasing with no follow-through is cruel. You deserve a respectful partner. I used to think cruel and unusual would at the bare minimum involve batteries and some cables connected to balls. After reading OP's piece, I'm changing my position. How can she say they did not just marry for sex and find it normal that they have not had any form of sex for years? Just marrying for sex implies that there actually still is some sex. And leading you on and dropping your butt on an anniversary is almost unforgivable. I understand if they aren't in the mood and say no, but 6 years? I almost have to think she's getting it from somewhere else. You might be the a-hole for the outburst, depending on exactly what and how it was said, but your feelings are valid AF. Best analogy I've heard regarding this situation. You don't buy a house for the bathroom, but you wouldn't buy a house that didn't have a bathroom. You don't enter a relationship just for sex, but you can't have a proper relationship without it. Some people do have sexless marriages, but that is by choice. Divorce her and move on. She had her chance to fix things and blew it. I do think she has the emasculation kink whether she realizes it or not. She gets off on the empowerment aspect of cucking you this way. As an asexual woman, this is exactly what I came here to say. My husband is an ace, but he married me knowing what was up, and we have an agreement he's happy with. We chose this life together and I've never entertained a relationship with him if he had needs I knew I never intended to meet, let alone rile him up about it and make him think I was going to. Can you imagine this as a different need? Partner knows their spouse has needs for physical affection and emotional reassurance. Keeps offering to talk, only to walk off and refuse to provide that time. And again, leaving their partner emotionally constipated and alone with their emotional needs unmet. None would suggest they stay ever. If OP's wife had the best benefit of the doubt and really doesn't know how cruel this is, then she needs therapy big time. Otherwise, to hell with that abuse. Not the a-hole. Just leave, man. It's not worth it. Trust me. Incompatibility like this is bad enough without her leading you on as well. That's messed up manipulative. Now for the update. Just came back from local courthouse after presenting the divorce intention document to the family court. A friend filled out my info on a one-pager draft, and that was it. I called my wife to let her know I started the process and I'm okay with 50-50 everything. She called for marriage counseling and told me I should take what I did back. I realized I'm extremely burnt out by trying and do not want to try anymore. That's what 3 years of trying with no results does to someone, I guess. I told her we can have a separation counseling near the end of the divorce, so we can understand the relationship from each other's points and end it amicably. She tried to talk with me, but I asked her to please make it easy for both of us and hung up. She is messaging me and calling me still, but I have no intention of talking to her if lawyers are not involved right now. My lawyer friend told me it's okay to leave the house as we do not own it anyways. I'll be staying with my parents for now. Next update will be once the divorce is completed. Hopefully it will be in a few months, not years. There were a lot of comments on the original post and I cannot answer all of them. Thank you for all the advice and help. I'm struggling to think what she feels she could possibly say now that'll fix things. I love you, I'll change, let me make it up to you. All of which will lead to nothing but the same thing within 5 days if Hopi takes her back. It's all empty promises. Action speaks louder than words, and she's already shown her true colors. I remember the first girl I had sex with stopped wanting it. There was a lot of trauma there, and the sex we did have was really bad and really boring. She didn't want to do anything at all. After we broke up, she asked me to give her a chance, give her a weekend. She'll come over to my dorm, my roommate was out of town for the weekend, and she'll give me the sex I deserve, and I'll bring all the condoms we had. We need them. She showed up. I made my interests known. She kissed me, teased me, went, oopsies, I forgot the condom. Guess we're just going to spend a weekend cuddling and not having any. You ask her for years. Now she wants to work on it. Get on with your life. Find someone that you are compatible with. Much love. Stay strong. More than just that. She told him that he needed to take back what he said. F that noise. She seems incapable of realizing what she constantly did to him is wrong, and is putting the blame on him. I'm reluctant to judge too quickly, but really seems like signs of narcissism at least. I agree. Her having issues with libido or body image would be one thing, and completely understandable. However, her consistently teasing him just to shut him down when it comes time is beyond cruel. It's not like she can say she thought she'd be in the mood and turned out not to be. That can happen sometimes, but not every time for years on end. It's like she enjoys feeling desired and didn't care how it made him feel in the process when she shut him down time and time again. She seems very dismissive of Hopi's feelings in general. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife there's nothing weird about me giving away my niece at her wedding and that my wife has no say in it at all? Original post. My niece, 26 female, has her wedding in a month and she wants me to give her away at her wedding. Her father passed away when she was really young, and I felt a moral obligation to help my sister and her daughter, because my sister too helped me a lot growing up. I knew I had an obligation to my wife and children primarily, but that didn't mean I couldn't help out my sister and her daughter too. Since they live just 10 minutes from us, I tried to be as physically active as possible in my niece's life when she's growing up. My wife and I have had a few arguments on it over the years. I have also been sending money to my sister every month for the past decade or so. It is from my individual account, not the joint account my wife and I share, so I have full liberty to spend it however I want. But my wife does know about it, and we had arguments on this too. Now coming to the point, my niece wants me to give her away at her wedding next month, but my wife thinks it's very weird and she doesn't want me to do it. I told my wife there's nothing weird about it, and her opinion on this is irrelevant. We have had a lot of discussions on this over the past week, and I am made to feel like a bad guy by my wife. Am I the bad guy? Am I the a-hole if I were to give my niece at her wedding? Now for the top comments before reading the update. I am confused why that is weird. You are walking her down the aisle at her wedding. What is the problem? Not the a-hole. You should like a caring uncle and brother. Saying your wife's opinion is irrelevant to her making it a problem is deserved. Sorry, not sorry. I don't get it either. Seems a normal thing for an uncle to walk a bride down the aisle in a place of a deceased father. My brother and I walked my sister down the aisle at her renewal ceremony because our dad had passed. What reasoning did your wife have for it being weird? She's given many reasons. Like, for example, one reason being that we have a daughter who isn't married yet, and she feels like I'm closer to my niece than my daughter, which isn't true at all. And then she says symbolically, me going to my niece's wedding as her father figure while my sister being there as her mother. She thinks it's weird. She's hinting at it looking incestuous? Is that the point she's trying to make? 99.9% of people would just think it's sweet that her uncle is walking her down the aisle. If that's what your wife is hinting at, then she needs some therapy. She's the weird one for sure, not the a-hole. Yeah, that's so weird. An uncle who has acted as a father figure is the perfect person to walk in knees down the aisle. Nothing about that would make me think of anything incestuous at all. She seems like she's got a weird jealousy towards the sister that is misplaced. I walked my sister down the aisle because my dad refused to go to her wedding. OP, nothing weird about it. Your wife has some underlying issues and she's choosing this as a lashing out point. The issue is not here, it's elsewhere and she's manifesting it here. Good luck, buddy. Now for the update. Reading the comments on my last post made me feel a bit better about everything. To be honest, all these discussions I've had with my wife, it just gets extremely tiring, and I sometimes start feeling guilty about everything, but reading the comments made me feel better. I had a discussion again with my wife last night. I didn't show her the post because a lot of the comments were pretty harsh towards her, but I did feel confident last night when we had a discussion. We came to a decision that I would walk my niece down the aisle, but we would also go to marriage counseling because my wife had a lot of things to get off her chest. I asked my wife what some of those things were, and she said the primary issue was that she felt like I was playing happy family with my sister and my niece all these years, and that she feels like I have taken the role of a significant other to my sister, which I disagreed with, but we'll speak about it in marriage counseling. She then talked about how she sometimes wished she was my sister instead of my wife, because she wished she had the same emotional connection with me that I had with my sister. I didn't really know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. She then talked about how I've been more of a father to my niece than to our daughter, but I disagreed again, because my daughter and I always have been close, and I've never sensed any resentment from my daughter. Again, something we'll both talk about in marriage counseling. So that is it for the update. A pretty exhausting discussion, but marriage counseling should hopefully help. I am glad I will be able to walk my niece down the aisle because she said it really means a lot to her. I think it's odd that your wife would look at a relationship between siblings and compare it to her marriage. But it's also obvious that her emotional needs have not been met over the years. So who are we to belittle what she may genuinely feel? Good luck to you both in counseling, and I hope it helps to resolve the underlying issues in your marriage. Congrats to your niece. I think if you take sex out of the equation, it makes perfect sense. If OP has in fact been a more present and dependable partner to his sister, then I would totally get where his wife is coming from. Obviously, I don't know, and her choosing to draw the line at the wedding was weird. I think it was just a bunch of little stuff that added up, and the wedding was the straw that broke the camel's back. It's impossible to know, and not really helpful to speculate since we are only getting one perspective. She could be jealous and clingy. He could be emotionally absent in favor of his sister and niece. Maybe they just have different perspectives/expectations that a good marriage counselor can help them navigate in a healthy way. You should have a private conversation with your daughter and ask her how she feels about your relationship with her cousin. Since you have missed some of your wife's emotional needs, it is possible you have missed some of your daughter's needs. I really would love to know what daughter thinks and how old is the daughter? My daughter is 26 too. We are both honest with each other, and she admits that my niece's upcoming wedding did make her a bit jealous, but she is really happy for my niece. You don't need to financially support your niece or sister anymore. I think your wife feels like she and your daughter are in second place compared to your sister and niece. I think you may have been emotionally absent as a husband and father, and that's why your wife is angry. Sounds like she's just tired of always being not enough. Stop dismissing her concerns. Her feelings should always be important to you, same as her opinion. OP, I think you're going to get a hell of a shock in counseling when your wife starts sharing her feelings. You can't tell her they're irrelevant then. Last story. Am I the a-hole for banning my 5-year-old sister from my wedding unless she gets therapy before the wedding? I just want to start off by saying I, 24 female, love my baby's sister more than anything in the world. I drive a 3-row car because it was able to fit her and my other siblings, 9 female and 7 male, and some of their friends. My fiancé and I watch the kids after school every day, and they spend the nights with us 2 to 4 days a week. My fiancé is great with kids, and they adore him. My fiancé proposed 6 months ago, and when we told the kids, the older 2 were excited. But Evie, the 5-year-old, was furious. She started crying and hitting me because she wanted to marry him, and if I marry him, she can't. She refused to speak to me for almost a week, and now she's mostly okay, but she gets mad at me and starts crying and hitting me anytime she sees me kiss him. She was supposed to be our flower girl, but I really don't think she'll be able to sit through the wedding without some kind of outburst. So I called our dad, told him about all of this, and said that she won't be allowed to attend the wedding unless she starts seeing a therapist before the wedding. The wedding is in September, so he has a couple of months to get her in therapy. He's saying she doesn't need therapy. She's just a 5-year-old with a crush on my fiancé. I'm overreacting, and she won't forgive me if I exclude her from the wedding. Am I the a-hole for banning her unless she gets her therapy? Where are the parents? Why is no one telling her that she can't behave this way? You mean the parents who pawn their kids off on OP all the time? We do tell her she can't behave this way. Who is we? Are there consequences? Violence and biting until someone bleed is a danger sign. Is this even real? Me and my fiancé. She sits in time out every time this happens, and if this happens outside of the house, we'll leave and take her home. My fiancé even refuses to play with her after, and tells her that he doesn't play with people that hit. Still wondering where her parents are. Not very involved. Why the heck did they have so many kids if they don't want to be involved? You and your fiancé need to distance yourselves from them, and your father needs to figure this out. Who is the mother? Is she your mother as well? Stop wasting your life on other people's kids. We have different moms. Their mom doesn't seem to want anything to do with the kids if she can't get cute pictures for Insta. Dad has never been very involved. Update. I told my ex-husband my concerns about his girlfriend. Original post. My ex-husband and I are in our early 40s and late 30s and have been divorced for almost 3 years now. While he did not want to get divorced, we separated and have been co-parenting our 2 preteens amicably. He lives within 5 blocks from our old home, and while we have 50-50 custody, our kids freely bounce between our places and choose how they want to spend holidays. We've tried hard to create a sense of stability despite the change in our family situation, and have standing tune-up therapy twice a year to make sure we're all comfortable with the arrangements. His recent partner, Maria, 29 female, has been the only one to make past the 6-month mark. And prior to this encounter, I would say that she makes him happy and is a pretty reasonable lady. She also has a very sweet and precocious 9-year-old son that we all adore, and generally I thought things were going well. I invited Maria to bring her son to my place if she would like him to join my kids in private language classes. She accepted, and this has been going on for a few weeks now and my kids adore him. Then last week, she said something to me that was surprising. She asked me when I would be moving my things out, so that my ex and her could be able to cohabitate. I was taken aback and confused, asking her to clarify my current home. This home? And she nonchalantly told me, you don't need all the space for 3 people. We wouldn't have space at Ex's current condo. Her son looked so awful and embarrassed at this point that I was like, this conversation would need to include my ex. My kids and I live in a brownstone that my ex and I purchased together 50-50, but that I have been renovating since before the divorce. My ex lives in a nice condo that's spacious, but is still a little bit of a man cave. Later in the evening, I got a text message from her son that was pleading for me to forgive his mom, that he is sorry for his mom, and to not tell my ex. I feel awful, but I think I should let my ex know this conversation occurred, and let him handle it. Would I be the a-hole if I told my ex-husband my concerns about his girlfriend? Edit. I'm the single owner of the house. My ex insisted throughout the divorce that I keep it. We do co-own his condo though. Haha. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Why would you be co-owner of his condo? And why did you laugh after saying that? This whole thing does not add up. Ex may not be able to qualify to refinance the condo in just his name. OP was probably laughing because girlfriend thinks ex owns both homes, and girlfriend can throw OP out at her whim, when this is not the case. Before our divorce, we owned both properties outright. Our divorce was very amicable, and he insisted I keep the brownstone. After the divorce, I had my lawyer help me transfer the brownstone deed and my ex signed the documents. He just never did that with the condo. I asked him a few times, and the answer has always been hand-wavy. I'm his ex-wife, so I'm not going to continue nagging him on something he's dragging his feet on. Not the a-hole. Your ex-husband should be the one having that conversation, so you absolutely need to share this with him. Weird that the 9-year-old has a better emotional gauge than his mom though. He's a special kid in the best way. very mature, and advanced for his age. I was very mature for my age, and it stemmed from trauma, as did my understanding of situations, both social and emotional, that should have been outside of my scope. I'm not saying that this kid is definitely traumatized, just that I've never met a former gifted kid that wasn't in some way. You would not be the a-hole, and I'm alarmed that a 9-year-old is already conditioned to apologize for his mother's behavior. I suspect girlfriend used her son's phone to manipulate the situation. I doubt this, because the girlfriend wasn't embarrassed at all. It was the son who reacted like this. I think this is just a very smart little kid with a high EQ, who has had to navigate the world with a parent who isn't nearly as savvy. Not the a-hole. It sounds like this needs to be discussed, not necessarily because of her, but because it's obviously come up in their discussions. If you are divorced and still have shared property, I think that's what this says, then you will need to sort that out sooner than later. She wouldn't really be the issue. The ownership of the property is the issue, and it sounds like he's thinking about that if she brought it up. The thing is, I don't think it's been discussed between them at all. I think she may have just assumed. When we separated, he insisted that I keep the house, and that I didn't need to buy him out. The house belonging to me is ironclad. I just got nervous and blurted out that we discuss it because her son was there. And now for the update. First off, some people ask why I laughed haha at the end of my edit that I owned half his condo. It was mainly out of uncomfortable irony. X is extremely driven and brilliant in his career, but disorganized in life. As for the update, I procrastinated bringing up what Maria said, and basically told myself, assume best intention/awkward curiosity. My thought process was that, it's my home, and she'll have to cart me out here on the back of a hearse. I admit I was also nervous about raining on his happiness, and did not want to be perceived as a bitter ex. The kids had a grand time at camp, and a month or so ago later, we had family dinner with both sets of grandparents. My ex brought Maria, and it started out great. Everyone welcomed Maria and her son. Maria was helping me finish up dessert in the kitchen, and I was patting myself on the back for the goop-level blended family dynamic, when she made an off-the-cuff comment about how she'd host parties here. X came in with the kids, overheard and asked, "Oh, did Low Stakes offer for you to host?" Maria's son just burst into tears and started apologizing. It was genuinely one of the most awkward experiences of my life. Long story short, the entire family has learned that X had a vasectomy after divorce and is not looking to remarry anytime soon. Afterwards, I talked to him about the previous interaction, along with showing him the text messages, and now they're no longer together. I am worried about Maria's son, although I recognize it's not my place. Unsure what I can do there. Poor Opie and X. Jesus. I cannot imagine what was going through the girlfriend's head. She thought she'd be the new wife, and he'd move his new family into the bigger place. So bizarre, as it doesn't even sound like younger new girlfriend at Opie's ex-hubby even had any conversations about cohabitating at all. Never mind cohabitate where. Head scratching at girlfriend's assumptions. The reaction from her kid being so immediate and so extreme makes me think that it's a pattern. Honestly, it made me suspect it had been discussed between them, and the ex-husband had said no, and that's why Maria tried to go behind his back and the kid was so upset by it. But even without that, the kid's reaction is hugely telling of something. I feel so bad for the kid. Feels like he was settling into an environment/schedule where he got to do new stuff and see good people on a regular basis. Opie described her children loving him, and now it's all going to get taken away again? Not to mention, I feel like it can be a warning sign when very young children are described as being super mature and understanding for their age. I was that way growing up, but only because of emotional mistreatment/neglect and parentification by the adults in my life. In the long term, it actually stunts you emotionally because you're stuck constantly trying to read the moods of other people and accommodating for what they want. You learn to ignore your own needs and never get to explore who you are as a person in one of the most important developmental phases of your life. Anyone get the sense Maria was looking to hit the jackpot? Also, it stands out to me that her son is so mature according to Opie. Kids grow up fast when they have an irresponsible parent. He was apologizing like she was his child acting a fool. Yes, unfortunately, kids do grow up fast when they have irresponsible parents. I personally know this for a fact. I feel for the little boy. Also, unfortunately, the ability to be mature for your age And having to parent your own parents does not translate you into a mature, functional adult. Most of the time, a young kid's maturity is complex trauma, molding them into still, quiet, vigilant people who know best when not to do anything. Knowing how to avoid triggering your emotionally immature parents does not make you a good romantic partner, say, or help you understand your own feelings to decide what you want. I'm not saying this to dump on a kid, but to empathize. I was also a bright, mature kid. What that actually meant was I sat still at school. Think my adult life had been fulfilling due to this great ability? Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling the mother of my boyfriend's son to run an upgrade on her parenting style? My boyfriend 32 male and I 35 female have been together for 1 year. I haven't got any kids. He has got a 4-year-old son who lives with his mom, my boyfriend's ex. My boyfriend fetches his son every weekend, and he has recently introduced me to his son. We get along really well. He's sweet and very talkative. I have helped raise my nieces and nephews, so I think that I am good with kids. I don't believe in hitting kids. We talk things through, and this has been my approach with my boyfriend's son too. He is always up to something, taking things apart or pressing buttons, but that's because he's curious. I always speak to him calmly and have started explaining things to him. So now, he asks me questions like, "What does this do? What is this?" And we explore things together, so less things being broken. I recently received a call from the mother of my boyfriend's son, asking me to stop using all these new age phrases on her child. She said that my funny things are interfering with her parenting style. Apparently, the boy said, "Don't shout, mommy. Speak soft like auntie." He also said, "Okay, take a deep breath, mommy," whenever she would raise her voice at him. At first, I told her that I wasn't trying to interfere with her parenting style, but that is how I deal with children. But she told me to go make my own kids and then teach them stuff. That hurt me, and I told her that maybe her parenting style needs an update. Now she refuses to let the child be around me, and she is starting to refuse my boyfriend access to his son too because of my interference. My friend thinks that I shouldn't have told her that her parenting needs an update and let my boyfriend handle this instead. And now I feel terrible. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. She's being ridiculous. Assuming that there's an actual visitation agreement, she cannot unilaterally just do that. X is being pissy. This is a type that will allow a child to be destroyed just to get back at the ex, for whatever reason. Of course, she is probably demonstrating all the reasons she is an ex as well. My parents divorced when I was 1 and used me to hurt each other my entire life. Can confirm that none of this behavior is going to be good for the child. I was 5 and my mom tried to use my little sister and I to hurt my dad and essentially extort him to pay an absurd amount of money. Joke's on her though, I moved in with my dad full-time at 11 and became an attorney because I was so angry at what she had done. Not the a-hole OP. X is being super petty and your parenting style sounds like mine. My son is 3. He is an intelligent and curious little person trying to figure out the world. Patience is a must with small children, and you sound like a wonderful friend/stepmom. Sounds like the 4-year-old is more mature than his mother, and she doesn't like being reminded of the fact by the kid when she loses her temper. Your boyfriend needs to go to court and get a proper custody arrangement in place, because his ex just deciding he doesn't get to see his son anymore, ain't it? Not the a-hole. That would be a fun one. Mother declaring that the father can't see his kid anymore because his girlfriend doesn't scream to it. Can you imagine telling the judge you want to change things because the new girlfriend is speaking to your child respectfully and, gasp, explains things to them? That kind of curiosity should be cultivated. Opie just found a non-destructive way to do it, and it sounds like he loves it. Sounds like he also appreciates not being screamed at for something. I mean, he's freaking 4 years old. Mistakes are gonna happen, and yelling or spanking doesn't teach him anything, except maybe that it's okay to yell and hit when you're mad. Most judges would laugh at the ex. Last story. Am I the a-hole for deviating from my niece and nephew's routine while we watch them, instead of speaking to my sister-in-law because I thought it was unfair? Our niece and nephews, 11 male, 9 female, and 8 male, were going to stay with us for a week while my husband's sister and her husband went to a wedding out of state and made a vacation out of it. Sister-in-law's always gotten parenting inspiration from celebrities and online blogs. The first clue something was off was when our niece came to us and told us that our son, 14 male, wasn't giving her his Switch to play first. I explained to her that the switch is his, so she had to ask nicely for a turn, and it was up to him to share. When it was time for the 8 and 9-year-olds' bath time, I told them to get ready for their baths when our niece shouted, "I'm first," and went to get her stuff. At bedtime, I asked them what story they wanted to read, and again, it was our niece that answered. The following day, they wanted to watch a show, and I told them to agree on one. Our niece went, who were watching the show. I told her that she needed to talk to her brothers to find something all three of them agree on. Her response was, "Boys always pick everything." So, I took that to mean that her brothers often pick and let her put on the show. When it was dinner time, my husband called everyone to the kitchen and was plating food up for the kids on a first-come, first-served basis. Our son got in there first, and our niece told him that he needed to wait because she and Auntie go first because girls go first. My husband explained that at dinner time, dinner is served as you get in the kitchen or take turns so no one goes first all the time. Bath time and bedtime story was the same thing. She wanted to go first and pick first. So I told her since she got to go first with both the night prior, one of her brothers got to go first that night. She said that she was supposed to go first because girls first, and that's how their parents do it. Here's where I may be the a-hole. I explained to her that in our house we share and we take turns. That's how things went for the next 2 days, until their parents called and she told my sister-in-law that we weren't following the rules. I talked to sister-in-law, and she was upset that I changed the kids' routine without talking to her about it first, because she was just trying to provide an environment for her daughter where she would take precedence. I told sister-in-law she never mentioned these rules and routines when she asked us to keep the kids, and even if she had, I wouldn't have agreed to them since they would, and have, impacted my own child. I also told her she's not providing an environment to make her daughter feel valued and special. She's raising her to be entitled and being unfair to her sons. The following day, my husband's parents showed up to pick up the kids, and since then, his relationship with his sister has been strained. Am I the a-hole for deviating from their routine instead of bringing it up to my sister-in-law first? Not the a-hole. Your sister-in-law is sexist and is raising your niece to be sexist as well. At least hopefully the nephews will remember which family they can turn to when they go no contact in high school. Not the a-hole. This has nothing to do with celebrity-style parenting. It's just good old-fashioned favoritism. Not the a-hole. Yikes. That's a crazy way to raise a daughter. Your sister-in-law isn't doing her any favors. She'll be shocked when she enters the world as an adult and realizes nobody cares about her rules/opinions. Not just the daughter. What a crazy way to raise their sons. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Her thought process makes no sense. It's fine to make sure your daughter knows she's valued and special. It's definitely not okay to teach her that because she's a girl, she'll always get to be first or always get her way. You're correct. She's just teaching her to be an entitled brat. I don't know. Some people overcorrect. You'd be surprised at how many women have grown up in houses where they were second-class citizens. Doesn't make the sister correct, but I can see how it came about, especially in certain cultures and corners of the world. The problem with that culture is that there are first and second-class citizens at all, not who the second-class citizens are. Update. Would I be the a-hole if I told my male 46 kids, male 16 and female 18, their recently deceased mother, female 44, cheated on me? Original post. The wound's still a bit fresh. A month ago, my wife of 22 years tragically died in a car crash. Cynthia was one of those drivers that loved to stare into her phone, and unfortunately this bad habit caught up with her in the last week of January. I was pretty devastated when the police showed up at my door and told me she had a fatal accident, and I wanted to honor her somehow. At the time of the accident, I had no idea she was having an affair. The last 4 or 5 months, I did notice she was pulling away and our intimacy decreased, but I thought this was just something that happened to couples after 20 years, so I didn't pay much mind to it. But at least from what she told me, Cynthia started to get into writing. She was constantly on her laptop typing away at all hours. She told me she was working on a fantasy book, hopefully the first of his series. When I asked more, she said it was about a fantasy world where a super advanced human race appears and interacts with orcs and elves and magic with laser guns and high tech. It sounded very cool, and Cynthia promised as soon as she had her first draft she liked, she would let me read it. I decided to honor her by getting the draft of her book and hiring a writer to clean it up and publish it with a novelty press. I got on her laptop and no book. No sign at all. I opened her Chrome thinking she might have written it in Google Drive and saw a bunch of pinned tabs. One was a Facebook Messenger tab with a ton of her messages with a man named John. I have no idea who John is, never met him, but they talked about meeting up, exchanged photos, everything. The last message John sent her was 2 days before Cynthia's accident. The two saying they loved each other and him saying he was going on a business trip to Germany. The messages between Cynthia and John have shown they had met up at a house more than once, so I already had a lot changed. Not sure if John is back yet, and frankly don't care if he is. I was thoroughly devastated. She did have a Google Drive tab, but in her drive wasn't a book about elves versus Vulcans, but a shared document with John. The document was a plan her and John drafted on how to divorce me, turn the kids against me, and take our home and as much money as possible. One thing she noted was she has been taking money, a few hundred a month, and putting it in a separate account. I got the bank things sorted out, and the money in the kids' college account. I've also been going to therapy twice a week now. It is hard to be mad at someone dead, especially someone everyone else in your life is grieving and praising as a wonderful wife and mother. I've asked my therapist if I should tell my kids about what Cynthia has done and what she has planning to do. My therapist cautioned me about this. He said that they just lost their mother, and being told this would be condemning her memory. Damnatio memoriae. Maybe now it is not the time, but I think eventually would be a time for my kids to know. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Now is definitely not the time to burden them with that. I agree. As someone who lost a parent when I was growing up, I could not handle information like that at a time. I know every kid is different, so you know yours the best. But personally, I think it'd be easier to wait until they're independent adults, not just legal adults, because I did not consider myself to be functioning as an adult at 18, and can process everything without it taking a toll on their mental health during a time I grieve. Yeah, like waiting until they're steady in their careers. I read something a long time ago when one parent told the kids when one just finished high school and the other was in college. It broke them. The college student dropped out, and I can't even remember what happened to the 18-year-old. Maybe only tell them if they're experiencing something similar in their lives, so they can see that you understand what they're going through. Honestly, there is no need to tell them. My kids were grown and still had daddy on a pedestal. I told them eventually that he might have been a good dad, but he wasn't a good husband. They got it. They were 4 and 5 when he died, and 20-something when I said that. They quit comparing their stepdad so harshly. This is literally all you need to say. That you mourn him differently because he was different with you than he was with them. My mom has told me some things about my late father recently, and it's hard to take. Plus, there's nothing to be done about it now. It just makes me feel bad that I didn't know what was going on at a time, even though I was a kid. She was the adult who chose to not take action. I will absolutely take some things to my grave unless my daughters find a way to get it out of me in my deathbed. I can tell they really don't want to know all of it. No one knows all of it. They don't need to know all of it. Adults should not be telling children everything that goes on in adult relationships. Full stop. But later it's a coin toss whether to tell adult children about such things. I don't think it's helpful unless for a very good reason. For example, my ex is bipolar. That's the most genetically determined of the major mental illnesses, and some of his story is relevant. Although, the children have now passed the point where bipolar makes its appearance, so it's a bit easier to discuss. You would be the a-hole, but I would suggest finding out who this John is and make sure he does not show up in your lives, such as at the funeral or anything. Sounds like they had some big plans involving your kids, and who knows what this POS could say. Now for the update. Some things have happened since the last time. To answer some questions, I have gone to the bank and got control of Cynthia's account and transferred the money into a savings account for the kids. Also, my kids already suspected. Tuesday night, my eldest Michelle and my son Jason had something to say to me. They sat me down in the living room and Michelle said, "We think mom was cheating on you." They both said they weren't sure, but it was eating them up seeing me in extreme grief the past month, and they thought I should hear what they suspected. They brought up how Cynthia was always away, and when she was at home, she would say strange observations about me. Stuff like, "Isn't it weird your dad's working late this week?" This is one of those seeds Cynthia mentioned in her document that she wanted to plant to the kids. Michelle said her suspicions went high the week before the accident when she got home from the school and saw a strange jacket on a coat hook by the front door. It wasn't any jacket Jason or I had, so she was very suspicious about it. I told both my kids that I didn't tell them, but I found evidence on their mom's computer when I was looking for the book she said she was writing. Michelle wanted to see the evidence, but Jason said he doesn't want to think or talk about mom for a while. I shared the info with Michelle after she insisted she already suspected her mom and was ready for it. It feels good to now have someone close that can talk to me about this beyond my therapist. Yesterday afternoon, I was home alone when I heard someone jiggling the back door knob. I went to the door and saw a man I never saw before, trying to use a key on the lock. I told him to step back from the door and he almost jumped. I opened the door a crack and asked him who he was and what he was doing in my backyard. It was John, Cynthia's affair partner. He told me that he worked with my wife, and he just got back from a trip and saw Cynthia died on social media, and him and Cynthia were starting a business. They had a business bank account with his investment money in the business, and he was wondering if I could help him get the business funds transferred over. I looked him straight in the eye and said I was at the bank and Cynthia didn't have an extra business account, and I had no idea what he was talking about. John also said that he wanted to check my wife's things for any sensitive business documents. I said I was a stranger and wasn't welcome in my home, especially since he tried to enter without permission. John looked defeated, but did suggest he would consult with a lawyer about his sensitive business documents and business funds. John had a key to your home, and he knew Cynthia was dead and still tried to enter like he had rights to it. Hope he needs to consult his own lawyer and get the locks changed. Change the locks if you haven't already. Very sorry about this. Glad your kids suspected and are handling it. Good luck to you all. That man is fortunate. By stealing into someone else's house, he was taking a risk that would cost him far more than money. I'm not proud about what I'm going to say, but if all of this is true, I'm glad she's dead. I mean, she wasn't only cheating, which is horrible, she was stealing OP's money and executing a plan to put their own children against him. She was the incarnation of evil. Even all the pain, OP is lucky that this happened, because if not, she was prepared to take everything from him and destroy him. Her children saw something was wrong long ago. She was one of those people who believe their plan is immaculate because they are geniuses and completely underestimate everyone else. Most criminals think this way. Totally agree. The world is better without that kind of people. I get the feeling that business money was the money she was stashing away. If everything was in her name, he had no claim and couldn't sue a dead person. A silver lining here, though. If she was still alive, I doubt the kids would have believed her lies about UOP. I would say get a security system for your house and maybe look into a PI to find out who this man is. He could be a dangerous person. Next story. Am I the a-hole for tricking my ex-wife during our divorce? My ex-wife, Becca, is 7 years older than me and has retired after 35 years of teaching. We had our kids later in life, and she took 4 years off to stay at home with them. I'm 58 now, and my ex decided 10 years ago that I wasn't who she wanted in her life anymore. It was a fairly peaceful divorce. Our kids were both in university, and we had that taken care of. The only real sticking point was our home. I thought we should sell the house and each use the money to buy something smaller and that would require much less maintenance. It is a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house we bought after we got married. We got it at a very good price and it has appreciated quite nicely over the last 38 years. Becca wanted to keep the house so the kids could keep their rooms. And so she had space for our, at that time, non-existent grandkids. Myself, our kids, our lawyers, everyone told her that it was a bad idea. I gave in and traded away alimony for my share of the house. Like I said, my kids were in school and neither of them planned on their careers keeping them in our town. My work gives me $250 a day tax-free as a living allowance since I work away from home. Rather than stay in a hotel, I've been renting a house in the city where I work. It works out well since I'm saving on travel back and forth. I see my kids when they have time. I took extra time off when my first grandchild was born. I can afford to do a lot of stuff I skipped before because I was saving for 2 people in retirement. Now that it's just me, I'm doing quite well. Becca is not. She wanted the lifestyle I was funding to continue. She went through her savings and now she just has her pension, which is pretty good I think, but it isn't enough to pay the property taxes, as well as pay for her trips, maintenance and stuff. She's having to sell her house where neither kid ever returned to live in after graduation. She has to travel to see our grandchild since my daughter is just at the beginning of her career and cannot take that much time off. She has been complaining to anyone who will listen that I'm living high on a hog and she was going to be homeless. That isn't true. There will be a bit of capital gains tax, but she will have an amount that will let her buy a condo for herself that is affordable. If she wants to keep the house, she could do a reverse mortgage, but I think that's a terrible idea. I think part of it is that I have a girlfriend now who is in her mid-30s, and she never found a guy she thought would be better than me. I think the guy she was seeing after we broke up was supposed to be him, but he didn't work out. She is mad that because of how I get paid, her alimony seemed like not a lot compared to owning a house free and clear. But I don't think it's my fault she wouldn't listen. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I don't understand how she thinks you tricked her. I'm sure after that many years of marriage, she understood how you got paid. You need that money for a separate household so she doesn't get any of that. She was informed by everyone else that she should not keep the big house, but she would not listen. She kept up her lifestyle after the divorce even though she had much less income. She knew her kids were not planning on moving home. There is nothing here that makes you the bad guy. She has buyer's remorse, and that is not your fault. I think so too. I do feel bad that she feels this way, but I thought maybe I was missing something and you guys could point it out. Real estate is still priced pretty high. She should make some good money on a house, no? She absolutely will. If they divorced 10 years ago, all houses everywhere, assuming she didn't let it fall into disrepair, have since gone way the heck up. There's no way she doesn't still walk away without a massive payday. Heck, even if it was in disrepair, there's a house near me that caught in fire and is unlivable and the owners want $200K. Not the a-hole. She made a bad decision and is mad that you were living your best life. She has no one to blame for her choices than herself. Thank you. I thought maybe I was missing something obvious. I did honestly try to get her to sell the house during the divorce. It's not her fault that she has champagne tastes on a beer budget. And owning a home you can't afford is simple math she could have done and figured out. Stop dwelling on her issues and live your life. Right? She's certainly living rent-free in his head. It's hard to separate lives after almost 30 years together. Our friends and family are all the same after this long. She didn't seem to have much of a problem separating things. Last story. Am I the a-hole for completely ignoring Valentine's Day because of our dead bedroom and not entertaining my wife when she expressed that it upset her? My wife and I are in our early 30s and have a dead bedroom. She's lost her libido over the years, and I can positively confirm that this isn't the person I agreed to marry in the first place. I tried to get her help, but she hardly follows through on a suggested course of actions, whether it be in a couple's therapy or individual ones. I feel like I don't love her anymore, but in my culture, divorce is taboo. So I am essentially stuck in this marriage. I hate how she doesn't even try. She would have all the time in the world to complain about her manager or complain about her weight, but wouldn't do anything about it. But trying to improve intimacy and getting her to do stuff is like beating a dead horse. So I withdrew. It started by stopping texting her "I love you beautiful" every day when I'm at work. And then I stopped giving her foot rubs and back rubs. Stopped making date plans. Then it came to a head when I completely ignored Valentine's Day and didn't get her anything. It was just like any other day to me. She confronted me and was terribly upset about this. I asked her, has she done anything to make me want to love her? Why should I be coerced into giving affections I don't want to give? Like, why should I care about what she wants when that care isn't reciprocated? Maybe this is vindictive, but I am disillusioned by her and disappointed in her for giving up completely on an intimate part of our relationship. We cannot stand each other, and she doesn't acknowledge me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but you're the a-hole to yourself. You're going to be miserable for the rest of your life because divorce is taboo? Nah, man, don't throw your life away. Be brave and let each other go. You should be more upset with your culture because divorce being taboo is ridiculous. Stay miserable if it's so important not to offend your culture. Otherwise, leave. She's an a-hole. Like in India, where divorce is a taboo, getting it is extremely hard. Especially as a man, where it's ridiculously and unbelievably common to use multiple DV and dowry sections as false cases to prevent it, if other party doesn't agree for a divorce. That too with an extremely slow and cruel court system. Getting divorced is so painful that most people suffer endlessly instead of getting it, especially men. Not the a-hole. And taboo or not, do You want to spend the rest of your life miserable because of a cultural taboo? Till death do us part? Sounds like person you married died already. Yeah, early 30s is perfect time to make a new start and build the life you want. Don't let cultural pressures get in the way of your happiness.